with Morgan streaking. She's chipping the goalkeeper. Off the post and in. Hat trick for Lloyd.
The pay disparity between the men and women is just too large, and we want to continue to fight. The generation of players before us fought, and now it's our job to keep on fighting.
The pay cap for the women's Major League Soccer players is 11 times less than the pay cap for men's Major League Soccer. 11 times.
Rapinoe gets a crossing. It's towards one man. Can you believe this? Amy Womack has saved the USA's life.
You are listening to Give and Go with Rohtas and Sam, only on Girls Soccer Network. Hello and welcome. You are listening to episode 57 of Give and Go. I am your host, Rohtas and Sam, and thank you so much for making the choice to listen to us at Girls Soccer Network. It has been a minute, but we have so much to get you caught up on. First and foremost, for all the latest and greatest news, analysis, lifestyle, everything that you need from the world of women's soccer, go to www.girlssoccernetwork.com. All the greatest content is out there, and of course links to Give and Go are there as well. Again, please be sure to use Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I believe Apple Podcasts is our most popular platform, so again, you can use Siri to say, hey, I want to subscribe to the show, I want to know what the name of this is, I want to play the first episode. You can play specific episodes, you can even play the newest, or just share it, leave us a review. Everything is appreciated, guys. We love the feedback. We need it. And so, again, we are super appreciative of each and every one of you tuning in and listening to this show. We have an incredible upcoming slate of content coming for you, courtesy of the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Girls Soccer Network had a booth there on Podcast Row, and we got the opportunity to really talk about our company at the convention, really kind of show everyone who we are. And our founder and editor-in-chief, Jen Gruskoff, has done an amazing job of going there year after year. This was my first time there, and it was an amazing experience. We have so much content coming for you. You have no idea. First off, we have Margueritte Aozasa from UCLA, the superstar head coach who has made a big splash in her first year at UCLA, winning the national championship, the first coach to ever do that. We have a super in-depth interview with her. We got myself, we have Sam Cary, who was there with us as well, the captain of the University of Iowa soccer team. So it's a great conversation. You definitely don't want to miss that, as well as a ton of other things to preview for the future. We have some other names like Julianne Sitch, who just won a national championship at the University of Chicago at the D3 level, the first woman to ever lead a men's team to a national championship. That will be coming in a later episode. We have Hugh Menzies, who did amazing things with the Reggae Girls, taking them to their first ever World Cup and then becoming the first black coach in the NWSL for Gotham FC. So we have him. We have Sarah Loden, who was the first team assistant head coach for the Houston Dash, who took over briefly last year and is now still with the team, and a big integral part of what they do on their coaching staff, is a key member who cares about people. All of that is still to come. We have so much great content coming for you. First and foremost, again, just want to get you caught up on the convention, some of the stuff we did out there. We had a presentation where Jen and Sam actually talked about kind of the power of social media and how we can use it to inspire young women such as yourself. So again, go check us out on Instagram at Girls Soccer Network, on Twitter at Girls Soccer Net. Instagram is naturally where we are the biggest right now, and we will continually, appreciate your support as we continue to grow here through, whether it's the podcast, whether it's through content. We're just super excited to bring you some great stuff moving forward. Before we go on into the interview, because I don't want to delay that, it's a huge one, and it's important to hear kind of some of the great stories that Margueritte has to say about her team and the year that she had and her experiences. First and foremost, one of the best things about the convention was having Scratch Labs there sponsoring us. They have a tremendous line of products. They've been in the cycling space previously. They are now venturing into soccer. We've had promotions for them on the podcast before. They do bars, they do hydration mixes, they do energy chews, all different types of fuel for you as an athlete to really help you out. So again, for Scratch Labs, We have a code if you go to scratchlabs.com, and it's scratch with a K. Remember that, scratchlabs.com with the K. Use the code GSN2023, all caps for GSN, to get 25% off your next order. Again, it was hilarious because we had so much stuff from scratch, and everyone was coming to us asking for bars, because everyone's so busy and on the go, and these energy bars and a lot of the chews and even the hydration mixes, because you're talking, you're on the go all the time. We essentially fed the entire convention. So Scratch Labs, we are eternally grateful to you guys, and we're happy to, we're super happy about the partnership. So we will continue to promote Scratch Labs. Again, GSN 2023, use that code for 25% off your next order at scratchlabs.com. All right, without further ado, we have to get into Margueritte Aozasa, the UCLA head coach. Here's the interview, guys. Enjoy.
We are with Margueritte Aozasa from the UCLA women's soccer team, fresh off of winning a national championship. Margueritte, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I'm a little tired, but I'm good. This is kind of the culminating event to the end of our little victory tour of sorts, so it's nice to kind of have a little closure, and everybody here has been so encouraging, so supportive, so congratulatory, that it's been just a very very positive experience. And so I'm kind of closing the door a little bit on the 2022 season, and in fact we start in 3 days. I think it's 3 days. I honestly have lost track, but we start this coming week kind of preparing for the 2023 season. So this was kind of the perfect ending to a great run.
Now, before we get into more about you and your season, would you mind clarifying for everybody, did we pronounce your last name correctly?
Oh yeah, you did great. You did wonderful. It's Aozasa. It looks way more complicated, I think, than it is. We've gotten some real creative takes on that, some added letters and everything. So no, you guys did an amazing job.
Awesome. All right. So since last month has ended, coming off the national championship, what has it been like for you, the experiences of the craziness of winning?
It's been a combination of things. The first emotion was just disbelief. Like, what just happened? Maybe if we had won 3-0 or something and I had 90 minutes to kind of settle in with the fact that we could win, that might have felt differently. But up until the last 15 seconds, I was like, well, what am I going to say to the team? We did a great job, and we came so close, and we had a lot to be proud of, and then we scored, and I was like, oh, change that. Got to think about overtime. Okay, wow. I was 5 minutes to prepare for overtime. So it was just that disbelief, then just exhaustion, because every single coach in the country knows this. Leading up to season is so well, especially for me, it was very I was anxious. I didn't know exactly how it was going to go. It's emotionally exhausting. It's physically exhausting. It's all these things. And by the time you get to the end, you're it's almost a war of attrition. Are we okay? And so there was just that level of exhaustion. And then kind of in waves, it would hit me just how proud I am. In part, probably the smallest part, proud of myself, more so proud of our staff, proud of our team. Thankful for everything that we went through, thankful for our staff, and by staff I mean the support staff that we have around us, our administration, just so many people made this possible. And so we've just been kind of sitting in a equilibrium of gratitude, just this is really cool, and we're very thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely wanted to ask you, you talked about feeling anxious and having those emotions, but when we are watching you out there, you are unflappable. Same expression. We had to ask you, how do you stay so calm and so grounded, even in that down 2-0, down 15 minutes? You were talking about how you had to, manage all that. Yeah,
so that has definitely been the talk of the town, the last couple weeks for sure. And I laugh because in the moment, I didn't think it was anything that different. That's kind of how I coach. It's just at UCLA, the camera's behind our bench, so I don't think people can really see me. And then this was totally on display. I kind of laughed. I was I feel like I just did a coach's evaluation, but the evaluation was by 70,000 people, and people have so many comments about that. After some reflection, I think the things that it boils down to, Like, one, it's just our approach, and I would say this as our staff, our approach to coaching and what your job is as a coach. We feel like the preparation and the quote-unquote coaching, what people think, the instruction, everything like that, the bulk of that is done in training. So someone asked me, are you the same way in training? And I'm like, I think if I was the same way in training, we wouldn't get anything done because nothing would be said. So I'm not really like that. I'm a lot more directive. I'm a lot more intense. I'm a lot more, I don't know how to put that, just maybe more, just insert myself obviously in a lot more situations. But that then allows us to be so calm in the game. I think what we displayed, like in my view, that's the goal. Like, can we prepare our team so well that in the game we get to watch and we get to make adjustments? That would be the next piece. Is like, I see my role in game is to solve problems. Some people like, it's kind of like peak performance. Like, I don't solve problems that well if I'm screaming and yelling. Maybe others do. That's totally fine. But for me, I'm more analytical. Like, I need to be observing, thinking, okay, this matchup's working, this one's not. This system is presenting spaces in this area, and how do we fix it? Or how do we capitalize on it? Again, I don't think that lends itself to a lot of screaming and yelling and pacing. But again, everyone does things differently. And then the last thing is kind of going to that solution base, and I think it also ties in with trust, is like, one of the things I'm most proud of is the trust that we established kind of in 3 ways. Like, one, between me and my staff, the staff and me. So, like, I felt like if there was something to be said or a problem, like, we had the ability to solve it between our staff. Then there was like this also bridge of trust between the staff and the players. There's like, we trust our players, so I don't have to comment on every single move they make. Like, I just don't. And I think they trust us. So similarly, like, they know they're prepared. They know we've got their back, so they can play and they can make decisions and they can do that on the field. And it doesn't require like constant commentary from us. So those are kind of like, I think, the driving factors. The other reason is like, I think I'm just kind of calm in general. My good friend was with me yesterday and she was like, I find this really funny because everybody's commenting, but like, that's just how you are in life. So if they know you, like, it's not surprising to anyone. But I do think it was like a stark contrast to what people have in their mind's eye is like what coaching is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how do you manage expectations from here on out? Like, where do you go from here after winning the national championship in your first ever season as head coach?
Yeah, I don't know. But this conversation was brought up to me, like, we often talk about how we manage failure. Like, that is such a huge thing. We don't often talk about how we manage success. So this is now my first time doing this, right? Like, this was my first year as a head coach. This is now my first time coaching a team that had just won a national championship as a head coach. So I don't know exactly where we go, but I do anticipate some challenges. And now the goal is, like, how do we confront those challenges? The biggest one is, like, how do we mitigate complacency? And also, how do we mitigate panic? So the complacency piece is, obviously, we want to keep striving. We don't want to think that what we did this year is going to work next year. We have to be willing to be flexible. We also have to be willing to strive for more. I think that piece I'm excited about because even our team, we walked off the field and they're like, we could be so much better. And I'm like, yeah, we can. I'm like, we've only got to work with this team for a year. Like, imagine what we can do in 2 years. And I think that's how they felt, which is exciting. I'm almost more nervous about the mitigating panic because obviously we had in so many ways this, like, wonderful season. What happens if we lose our first game next year?
Yep.
Like, what is that going to look like? What are we going to do when we face our first failure? So I think what we'll do a lot of, which will be different, is like talking about that, where it's like, how do we embrace the success we had, take what worked, continue with that, but also prepare for, like, what if it doesn't work? And how are we going to be prepared to adapt? So that's kind of where we're going with the program. I think for me personally, I'm just like, I would really like to enjoy this second season more because this last one, like, was so busy and I was trying to do a million things for the first time, and my husband, like, really shook me to reality, and he's like, you just made the Final Four. It is okay to be excited, like, because I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do, like, we gotta play Alabama, and he's like, you, like, need to take a second and enjoy this. And I was like, okay. I was like, but also we need to leave tomorrow. Like, it's really hard. So, yeah, I'm hoping to have maybe a little more perspective this year.
It's amazing. You know, I've actually had the unique opportunity to play UCLA twice in my college soccer career. And so I actually played you this season. I played at the University of Iowa.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh. That was I will say, after that first game, I was like, it could be a long season.
I will take that as a compliment.
It was a great compliment. I thought you guys were fantastic. I was like, they're playing a 4-4-2. It is a 4-4-2. Why are we so confused? But no, you guys did a great job.
Yeah, it was great going out there. And so I will say, so we played UCLA in 2021 in the college or in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And which was
another thriller.
And obviously we were on the upsetting end of both of those.
Yeah.
But I will say, in playing UCLA twice, it felt like two very different teams.
Oh, thank you.
And one of it, like coming from the Big Ten, coming from what we call like Midwest grittiness, like.
Yeah.
We are not afraid to tackle hard and get into it. And the first time we played UCLA, it didn't feel as reciprocated. And we all were kind of expecting to go out to LA and tackle a bit, and get into it. And we were surprised by the pushback. Can you talk more about your emphasis of defense in your UCLA team this year?
Yeah, so when I first took over the team, this is, I think, even before I had staff in place, we did a scrimmage. And we didn't even play a lot of minutes because we were in 8 hours. So I think we did like 3 15-minute periods. And the final score was 7-6. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. And the worst part is that the team was really excited because they scored 13 goals. And I was like, right, but you played yourself, so you also let in 13 goals, which is like not really what we're going for ever. So at that moment, I realized like, we need to change how we defend. Like, we need to be confident in that. We need to be comfortable. We need to have a clearer basis of understanding. And so we really, for the next 6 months, worked on defending. From the very basics to 1v1 defending to individual technique and kind of the thought process of what you should be doing in various parts of the field to how we're going to defend as a backline, as a midfield, so on and so forth, in the press and everything. It took a long, long time. But we said, like, we knew that on the attack, we could attack in a variety of ways. I felt right away, after the 7-6, like, our counterattack could be so dangerous. And I'm like, you know what, there's going to be games where we're going to have to defend, but know that, like, even when we're defending, they have to respect our counter. So even though it was like a more defensive mindset, we had to be very careful of going too far defensively. We had to structure it and frame it in a way that it was like, we're defending because we're so good on the counter. Yep. Like, keep that emphasis on the attack. The other thing is we were very honest with the group. I was like, all right, so your reputation around the country is that you're soft and you don't want to be physical. That is just what it is.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore. So we had to kind of invite that. Like, we wear shin guards in training. Most don't.
It's interesting. It is really interesting that people don't. Yeah.
The reason we do is because I'm like, you know what? Because now you're going to tackle in training. And I think it's mostly psychological, but because their shin guards are tiny, but it's like that has to be part of what we do. We don't back out of tackles. I'm like, no more like dip your toe in the water, tackle like you're actually trying to win it. I often say that. I'm like, please tackle like you're actually trying to win it. Thank you. And we talked about like when we play those teams, like there's going to be a day where we play a team like in Iowa, in our conference, like a Washington State. And I'm like, and the whole scout on you will be to just hit you hard. I was like, and we have to prove that that's not going to work. I actually laugh because I think in half our games we like out-fouled the other team. And we would often say to the ref, I'm like, this cannot be right. Like the last 10 years we've not fouled anybody. Like there's no way this can be right. Like even in the final, the first half, I think we out-fouled 9-2. I was like, this can't, there's no way like that we out-fouled that. Like, come on. And so that was kind of like a funny thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a huge emphasis, was like physically, like you guys have to be up for the battle. Like, and it's no longer going to be enough to just out-muscle us. which has been in the past, I think, one of the weaknesses.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting being in the Big Ten Conference right now because in another year, you guys are going to be joining it. And what is that feeling like for you to kind of switch and move into a more Midwestern style? Is that something you've thought about at all?
Yeah, I'm excited because I've personally been in the Pac-12 now for 8 or 9 years. Very familiar with, the teams. And so, for instance, this year, one of the games, so my 2 assistants typically take ownership of the scouting reports. They prepare them and they also present them to the team. One of the games in Pac-12, my assistant kind of ran into a little emergency. She wasn't able to do it. So she sends me the presentation and I'm like, oh great, Arizona State, yeah, no problem. I could give a scout for every team in the Pac-12 with my eyes closed. I know their key players, their numbers, their last name, their hometown, their best friend. We know them so well. So I'm excited for a new challenge. Obviously, there's going to be the challenges of travel and everything like that, adjusting a little to the style of play. But I'm really excited the direction Big Ten's going. I thought things like this year, Big Ten tournament, what an incredible production. Our players were watching that and they're like, we get to play in that? That's cool. The exposure, I think, is going to be incredible. And just the opportunities that it affords our players on and off the field. The support that they can get now. Everyone kind of, I think is critical. They're like, this is a money decision. And I'm like, as is most things in the world, I hate to say it, but it's true. And I think the financial implications of us joining the Big Ten hopefully will kind of enhance the experience that our players are going to get overall.
Absolutely.
Also, a lot of frequent flyer miles, which is fine.
Love it. So, how do you feel your experience as an assistant at Stanford under Paul Radcliffe helped prepare you to take the UCLA job?
I think, all my experiences have helped me in some way. So, obviously with Stanford, as a player at Santa Clara, as a player and coach in MVLA, which is a club out in Northern California, all of those things have kind of have culminated in this. From Stanford specifically, just learning how to manage kind of a championship caliber team, how to get everybody understanding that winning a championship is the ultimate goal, and these are kind of all the steps you need to get there. The approach was very different because the players themselves are very different, but kind of having that end game in mind was helpful. And then from Paul, Paul is an incredible person. He looks out for his staff like they are his own family, and that's something that I wanted to bring to our staff. So I was a young coach, kind of youngish still, but I was a young coach when I started at Stanford. I was 24 years old, and he allowed me to kind of grow into my role. He allowed the role to kind of grow with me. So my first year or two, I had very little responsibility, very little expectation. Just be here, enjoy it, kind of take what you're comfortable doing, but don't worry, we got the rest. And then each year was just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. One thing he said to me will always stand out because he's so kind. Maybe 5 years in, 6 years in, I think he recognized that I had the potential to coach somewhere else. I had the potential to be a head coach at some point. And he brought me into his office. He never, ever is he's like, Marg, would you mind coming into my office later? There's nothing bad. I'm like, okay, thank you. He's so kind. And he's like, do you feel like you're doing enough? And not you're not contributing enough, but for your own growth, your own development, do you feel like you're doing enough? Is there anything else you'd like to be doing? And I was like, honestly, I'm really happy. No. And he's like, okay. And he's like, I just had this thought last night and I had to meet with you. He's like, because I thought I just never want to be in your way. I never want to stand in your way. I was like, Paul, you are the head coach at Stanford. You can stand in my way. But that's how he felt. He was like, I never want to hold you back. And I was had a tear in my eye. And I'm like, Paul, you're doing the absolute opposite of that. But that's how he thinks. He's like, okay, how can we help? What can we do? How can we help her more? And so I try to make sure that I bring similar sentiment to my staff.
And you talked about having that conversation with him. What made you want to jump into such a big challenge at UCLA right away? Because most assistants, they go somewhere smaller, build their experience up.
Yeah, but what's funny is I don't know if that's their choice, honestly. Right? I don't think many assistants are actually given the chance to do what I did. Yeah, right?
Right, the
like,
opportunity
if
for
I
it.
had been given the option of a UCLA or a mid-major rebuild, I probably would choose UCLA, like,
Right.
as would likely most people,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where I want to be careful with how it's presented, because I'm like, I had a very little piece to do with the opportunity given to me, right? Like, at the end of the day, UCLA, Aaron Adkins, my administrator, Martin Jarman, the AD, like, they chose to give me this chance, which is why I was able to do what I did, right? Like, it just doesn't come up very often. Same thing with Paul Ratcliffe. Like, he chose to give a chance to a 24-year-old person who has zero experience in college soccer. Like, Stanford paid assistant was my first collegiate job. Wow. That just doesn't happen. Him taking a chance on me allowed me then, as a young first-time head coach, get the opportunity at UCLA. So it's like, yes, I think I've made the most of my opportunities for sure, but these are just opportunities that are rarely given. And I'm hoping that, you know, not just in our sport, but across sports, like, younger coaches or coaches that maybe don't have exact experience start to get these chances. Becca Moros, she's the head coach at Arizona. She's so strong. She encouraged me to apply for this job. And my first thing that I said to her was, yeah, but I've never been a head coach before. And she said, yeah, and the day you get the job, you have. And I was like, wow, that's really bold. I'll never say that, but thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear, Becca. Thank you. And yeah, like, so much of it is opportunity. It's not necessarily choice.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And, you know, you spoke about a journey, and I know as a college player myself, the season is a journey. Was there moments throughout the season this year that were, like, pivotal turning moments for your team, or moments where you all came together or anything
For
like
sure.
that?
I mean, first was Iowa. Shot off the crossbar, I thought, oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one hurt my soul a little bit. I'm not going to lie, from the other perspective.
You know what? It hurt my soul too, because I was like, wow, it's going to be a long season. Like, I was like, wow, we talking big talk, and I don't know what's going to happen. So there was that. It was kind of a funny, like, I was like, oh boy. I would say the Duke UNC weekend was huge, or kind of like the string of games. We played away at Santa Clara, away at Duke, away at UNC, all in a row.
Yeah.
That was hard. I knew that was going to be a pivotal moment for us, no matter which way it went, because honestly, I thought the least likely thing was that we were going to win all 3 games. In winning all 3 games, I think it helped expedite the process of buy-in and trust, because we tried things in those games that required our team to just trust us as a staff, and thankfully it worked. Of course, there's validation in success, so because it worked, now I think our players were even more apt to trust us, even more apt to buy in, and then it kind of set us up for success for the rest of the season. I don't know what our season would have looked like if those results didn't go that way, but the results I thought were well earned. Like, we did something different. We played kind of a counterattack, very counterattacking. We looked like Leicester City out there. We were like block of 8, attacking with 2 players. Like, it was very fun. But I think in asking our players to be adaptable, that was also huge, kind of as the season went on, because we tried a lot of things throughout, or like from game to game. I also think the loss against USC right before playoffs was hugely pivotal. Maybe I spoke the final into existence, because I said as soon as we lost one, I was like, I knew it was going to be hard, because they celebrated like they won a national championship.
Yeah.
As they should. Like, I have nothing against that. They knocked off number 1 team in the country, like, on home turf. Incredible win for Jane. Like, I've got nothing against that. But it was hard to watch. And we told our players, like, hey, as this time was counting down, we looked down the bench and we said, hey, like, we're class. Like, you don't get to be upset about this, basically.
Yeah.
And I said, like, if you are super upset, well, then you need to play better. Like, I'm sorry to say. Like, we've got no one to blame but ourselves, so we just own it. But the messaging after that game was like, hey, a loss like this prepares us for playoffs. I was like, and I think I said, like, who knows if we'll be down 2-0 in a game. Little did I know, but, like, you kind of say, like, you don't know. And I was like, and the way we responded today is not going to serve us in the playoffs. So going that first week into the first round, like, that was the talk. Like, those were the things we were saying. It's like, how do we respond when we're down a goal? How do we respond when we're down 2 goals? How do we respond? Like, because when it had happened against USC, there was panic. There's a lot of panic, blaming. We started to stray what we were trying to do. Saw a lot of individual play. And so we knew that had to stop. Thankfully, we had those conversations. Who knows what would have happened in the final if we won that game 1-0, right? So I think because we had those conversations, when it happened in the final, the team knew kind of exactly what to do, and more so exactly how to handle it emotionally, which was huge.
Absolutely.
And so going into next year, how do you feel about your roster with new recruits coming in, and then you naturally lose some superstars? Lauren Brixey, an amazing keeper. Maddie Desiano was key in that tournament run of yours. So how are you feeling going into next year?
Uncertain, of course, but confident. We have a lot of great players. We don't lose anybody in the attack necessarily. We of course do, but one or two players that, most of our goals are coming back, I will say. I think we'll lose some leadership for sure. Both Maddie and Lauren were huge in that. Mary Carmen, also one of our team captains. Jackie Gilday, she came in off the bench often through the season, but she was our great stabilizer. She said to us, she's like, if there's any problem, I feel confident I can go in and solve it. And I was like, yeah, we do too, so that's often why you go in there. Thank you. And so we lose those pieces. I'm really curious to see how our team comes back. More so than personnel, I think our bigger challenge to what we spoke to before is how do we handle our approach to the season? I feel confident we have this year. I thought we were 35 strong, and so we have the players, I think, to be a championship level team again. That we know we will definitely miss the ones that have left. Every single one had a great role. We have the players to be successful, but our approach, I think our approach is what set us apart this year, and for us to do well again, our approach has to set us apart again.
Absolutely. And with that too, you've had 3 players that are now starting the journey of their professional career, 2 of them getting drafted, and then going to La Liga with the other. So what do you say to them? What does that mean for you to give that send-off?
I'm so happy for them. All of those players have gone through a lot. Whether it was through injury, in a case like Lauren, she had been to the Final Four 3 times, which is funny because she was only been to the Final Four when I was there, but I was there on the other team. And, she was there at 2017. She was a 6-year senior, so she was there in 2017, but she was a redshirt player. Then she was there 2019, but she was second string keeper. So it was so cool to see her journey, from a player that's redshirting to then a player that played behind Tegan, and didn't really get those minutes, to now, the star of the show, right? And I was so happy for her. She is also one of the most thoughtful, genuine people I've coached in my career. And she, when she got drafted, the first thing she did was call our assistant Molly, who works with her on a day-to-day basis, and Molly was crying. They just had this moment of we did this. Look how far we've come. We did this. So I'm really happy for her. Maddie, of course, has gone through injury. She really only played 2 years at UCLA out of 5. And her story is just one of resilience. Her story is also one of trust. She was probably one of the biggest voices on our team that encouraged her teammates to trust us. There was moments through the season she's like, you guys, we just have to do it. Trust the staff. They're putting us in the best position possible, but we have to do it. And so that was massive. And it was so cool for her. The goal she scored in the semifinal was just electric. So happy for her. And then Mary, of course, to end your career on a game-winning goal.
The emotion.
And I have to share this story with you guys because it's so special, and it will it's etched in my heart as a memory that I will have forever. Mary had a difficult playoffs. She had been starting for us most of the year. Great player. She plays with passion, that's her thing. Unfortunately, she got the worst flu ever imaginable at the beginning of playoffs, to the point where she was barely making it out of her house, just really struggling. Now it's playoffs and we had choices to make, it's not really a game where you can play for 10 minutes if you're not playing or feeling that well. So she kind of fell out of our lineup. Yeah. And we kind of had to just move on through playoffs because it's crunch time and we didn't really have the flexibility to change or work her way back, I guess. So credit to her, because in the Final Four, this is a player that has played significant minutes all year, started most games all year. Final Four, she plays probably 15 minutes in the semi, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. In the final, she plays the last 5 minutes, I don't even think that, probably the last 3 minutes of the first half, out of position. She's a midfielder by trade, and we put her at right forward to, in a weird, give someone a break, basically.
Yeah.
Give them an extended halftime, right? Second half rolls around, we go down 2-0. Our midfield's playing well. We felt like Mary gives us a ton of attack, but she likes to roam as a 10, but we needed structure. So it kind of tactically wasn't the game for her to play in the midfield necessarily. So we're down 2-0. We score. And now it's 2-1, 10 minutes left. Credit to Molly, my assistant. I will give her 100% credit on this. She looks at us, and we needed something different.
Yeah.
And she's like, you guys, we have to put Mary in. And she's like, this is the last 10 minutes of her career. She's given this program so much. She plays with so much passion. We got to give it to her. And we're like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. We put her in. She goes in, makes a difference. We end up tying the game. We have only 5 minutes between regulation and overtime. Again, prior to 15 seconds, we could have lost, so I wasn't necessarily thinking about our tactics in overtime. I was mostly thinking, wow, Marguerite, you're going to have to hold it together as we watch the other team celebrate their national championship. I'm going to have to talk to the team. I have to talk to the press. I was more in that mindset. Mm-hmm. Then we tie, and I was like, ooh, got to think about overtime now. Credit to Mary. She runs to us, the three of us, and we're, debating our tactics. Yeah. And she's like, Mark, very confidently and very just, emotionally present. She's like, Mark, am I staying on? And I kind of just froze because we had not talked about that yet. And she's like, am I staying on? And I was just looked at her, and she goes, it gets me emotional. She's like, believe in me. I can do this. Believe in me. And I was like, okay. I was like, that sounds great. 100% we believe. We are on board. And we kind of look at each other, and we're like, yeah, you're on. And we left her on at right forward, which is not her position. Right? And we went for it. Who ends up scoring? Mary. It was a fateful thing, which was so cool. It gives me chills. Yeah, it gives me chills and tears, because she just was like, I can do this. Believe in me. I can do this. And we went with it. And sometimes I think things just fall into place, and that was one of those moments. If that was a different player, who knows if that moment would have happened. What is funny, though, is when she scored, we actually had to take her off the field because we're like, can you get it together? She's like, no. Just crying.
I'll never forget
her
seeing her
face,
sprinting off, just sobbing.
bawling, crying. And we're like, Mary, are you good? She's like, no. And so we end up subbing her off in the last 2 minutes just because she was a mess. Mess is not the right word. She was just overwhelmed with emotion.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just such a perfect moment. And so for her to kind of ride off into the sunset on that note, I think is again so special, and it really does represent kind of what the senior class has gone through, and what they're I think going to bring with them into their professional careers.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, what is your advice to all the young women, girls out there who are looking to improve their playing careers, their coaching careers? What would you say to them?
One, do what you love and foster that love. We tell younger players all the time, if you love juggling, juggle. If that's going to increase your love for the game, do that. If you love 1v1 with your little sister, do that. Do those things, because college soccer's hard. It's hard. It's a grind, Yeah. There are some really good days. There are some other really bad days. You have to really enjoy the game. And what I hate to see is, a player gets to college, they may not really love it, and then they're kind of going through the motions, but I don't blame them. It's just not the right fit anymore. And so it's can you cultivate that? I think similarly on a coaching standpoint, it's a grind. My assistant Molly often laughs when someone's like, yeah, I want to get into coaching. She's like, why? It's hard, and we go through a lot. We feel the responsibility for so many people that are also going through a lot. And it's a very emotionally charged game, so it's hard. So find ways to cultivate that love for coaching, that love for the game, and also find ways to like give yourself a break so that you can still love it. And that's something that I've really learned this year, like just how important that day off, the one day off in the week that we get, like how important that is, and making sure that we see that as like a self-preservation of sorts, and that is huge. The other thing is just surround yourself with good people. Like I've been so impacted by people along the way that have gone an extra mile to help me out, and I think there's a lot more good than bad in this game, a lot more good than bad in the coaching world, and it's like just find those people that are going to have your back.
So Chelsea Braun is one of your assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Do you do a little shout out to Tudela FC, which is a phenomenal club. Do you guys ever? I see them at your games.
Yes.
So just we always like to bring like the youngers.
Oh yeah, I mean, people so often ask me, and I'll get to Tudela in a second because I love what they're doing. But people so often ask me like you did, like, well, what did you learn at Stanford that prepared you for this? Or what did you learn at Santa Clara that prepared you for this? I'm like, let's not forget like what I learned at NWSL being a club coach for 15 years that prepared me for this, like almost more. I love like our staff. We truly value like the development side of the game, which is like the whole body of club. And that's the fun part. Also, I had the most incredible club experience as a player that set me up, like we talked about, for loving the game. Like my experience as a club player set me up to love the game so much that I could be successful now. And I think that's so important. Chelsea is like the nicest person I ever met in my entire life. It's amazing that she played at UCLA, and then what she and her husband doing I think is so special because it's different, and they value the individual development, the creativity, the ownership of kind of the time and effort it takes to be a master on the ball. So we love that. We love having them at our games. Goff and Molly, my two assistants, they also work for Tudela, and they I think it's so fun when you go from a UCLA training, and then in Molly's case, her next training is a 2014 training. But in this theme of loving the game, like that helps you love the game, because it's like UCLA can be really stressful at times, and then you go to like ladybugs and cartwheels and you're like, you know what, it's like pretty fun actually. And even in my last job when I was at Stanford, I coached for MVLA the entire time I was at Stanford. And in my last season, so MVLA is a little different in that if you want to, you can keep a team from the time they're U6 all the way to U18. That was the system that I grew up in. So Albertine Montoya was my coach from the time I started soccer at U9 till I was 18 years old. And he's my greatest mentor of all time. And I had actually started coaching in club when I was still a player at Santa Clara. What's amazing and so special to me is players that I had then when they were in first and second grade. I stayed with them all the way till they went to college, and now they're juniors in college. And we're playing against them. And I'm like, this is hilarious because I've known you since you were 6. Like, this is so funny. What was so special to me is when we won, the amount of, just even on social media or players that had reached out to me, like, just as much as I felt connected to them, I think they felt like they had seen me grow up. So they felt like this pride because I started coaching them when I was 19. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm winning a national championship, and they were like, I'd get a text from one of my players. She's like, I'm a proud mom. Like, she's like, this is a proud mom moment, like, to see me do that. So that was really, really cool. And that doesn't happen without my experience in club.
There were so many incredible nuggets of gold from that interview. Credit to Sam Cary, my counterpart, who asked some amazing questions to kind of bring that out of her, along with what I had to ask as well. I still got to give myself some credit, you know what I mean? I can't just not pass that over. But an amazing interview. You talk about how UCLA had to address the fact that teams think that they were soft and how they don't defend as well and aren't as tough, and how they turn that around. And that became a focal point in practice constantly for them, and you could see it. That's how they came back in the national title game. You're talking about the story of Mary Carmen Reyes, who was in and out of the team, a starter who wasn't able to start due to just bad flu-like symptoms, sickness, whatever it was. She literally could barely get out of bed and then comes in to score the game winner in the national championship game. So there's so many great nuggets of just how Margueritte and her staff were able to really build something special there from the beginning, and just her analytical mind and her ability to stay calm. And that was the other funny thing. She says in her head, she's thinking about how to address the team, assuming that they were about to lose. And so, the goal goes in, and what ensued from that point on is just utter madness. But yeah, it was an amazing interview getting to speak with her. She was so kind, so caring, and really for her to come down and sit down with us for that amount of time and talk about her experiences and the team was truly something special. So we are so appreciative of UCLA, the program, and what she's doing there, and to have that was really an amazing experience. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know, be sure to let us know if those are the types of interviews that you guys want to continue to hear from us. Can we get more college coaches? Can we get more pro players? Is there anyone that you specifically want to hear from? And we can reach out and do that. Okay, so be sure to, again, get in touch with us on social media. You can get to me at RowinDatas25, RowinDatas25, or search my name, Rohtas Wadera, ROHTAS, and then Wadera, WADERA. So again, get in touch with me for more content, right? Ideas. Check me out on Instagram, and we can bring you more content like this, okay? Because it was, again, an amazing interview to have her for a full 35 to 45 minute period, and she was great. Alrighty, we got to move on here to some other news around the world of women's soccer. A couple of key stories that we definitely wanted to get you caught up on. First off, the NWSL Draft. Now, that was the other great part about the convention, was being able to attend the draft in person. It had been a couple of years, right, because of COVID, and the last couple of years it's been tough for us, because we've had to do interviews with players and things like that all via Zoom. So it's not really the same. Again, we had Sam and Jen really get out there on the red carpet before, the draft, and to see her talking with some of the players, because she has that familiarity of being a college player, they were able to really get some great stuff and open up to her. So again, on Instagram, TikTok, we have so much great stuff like that. Again, if you want to go check it out, be sure to go to our social media pages and find some of that content. But yeah, getting back to the NWSL Draft, it was truly a special night to be there. It was long. It did get long towards the end, but it was an amazing, amazing night overall. And to be there in person, it honestly was a dream come true of mine to kind of witness that. The coverage itself could have been better. There were times where we're literally sitting there live and the cameraman does not have the proper angle. The directors just did not get it right. We couldn't see the players' faces when they were being interviewed. Apparently there was a hot mic on air as well during the broadcast, so there's still some things that the league needs to work out from a production perspective, right, so that they don't have to run into issues like this going forward. But in terms of what actually went down, it was something special. The atmosphere inside the convention was fantastic. Gotham FC fans traveled, made the trip to Philly, and they were there in full force. There were some blockbuster trades. There were some incredibly heartwarming moments, a ton of drama. Let's get into some of what happened. The first round, I think, was very, very shocking outside of the first pick. Again, Alyssa Thompson going to Angel City. It's a dream story. LA girl, stays at home, 17 years old, doesn't have to go anywhere, and gets to be the future of the franchise. And it's long term a great investment for Angel City, because she's going to develop into the next star, and you have a future superstar to replace Kristen Press down the line, who is still in recovery from her ACL injury. So this is the type of move that gets people excited. I think a lot of people, though, in terms of who's the best player available, it was probably Michelle Cooper. And so I think a lot of people are wondering, well, hey, this better work out. This better work out. And Alyssa Thompson, who is featured for the U.S. Women's National Team on many occasions, not many occasions, excuse me, but she just made her debut, and we've got to see her in the public eye now. It made sense for Angel City to go in that direction. But after that, we had a ton of craziness. Gotham continued to trade back, and at first we were kind of like, why would you pass up on Michelle Cooper? Especially the fact that they gave the number 2 pick to Kansas City so that they could select Michelle Cooper, and they gave up Lynn Williams in the deal. So if you're Kansas City, you also have your superstar striker for the future, arguably the best player in the draft. And to be fair, Lynn Williams is just older. No one is saying that she can't play at an incredibly high level and can get back to, being at her absolute best. There is no one saying that, but it's like for future prospects, you have the opportunity to get younger at the position and build around that roster. Michelle Cooper was a home run for Kansas City, but by giving up the 4th pick, here's what Gotham did, right? Not only they knew that Jenna Niswanger was going to be available at 4. Emily Madrill went to Orlando at 3. That's a cornerstone center back right there. But Jenna Niswanger also had an incredible year, and this was her first year getting to play free, getting to play in that attacking position that she's always wanted to play in that midfield spot. And we saw the difference for Florida State this year, distributing and scoring. She can do a little bit of everything. And so now you add Lynn Williams and Niswanger to the Gotham attack, a team that has struggled to consistently score goals. That's really been the big issue for them the last couple of years. And so what do Gotham do? They go and address that immediately. That was a great steal of a move, to be honest with you. So Niswanger and Williams, Gotham just got a lot better in attack. Reina Reyes, another cornerstone. I don't think there was any question there. Portland gets a great one to bolster their defenses. You need replacements for Becky Sauerbrunn down the line. She's not going to be there forever. So Reina Reyes made a ton of sense there. The Courage had 4 first round picks, doing what they do. Going back to the dominant dynasty days where they built through the draft, and that was something they were looking to do here. 2 of the 3 picks were a bit surprising, to be honest with you. I was not expecting some of the Olivia Wingate to go 6. I think she's a great player, but I think 6 was a bit of a reach. Same for Sydney Collins out of Cal Berkeley. I don't think anyone had her in the first round among mock drafts and things like that. So the Courage, get Clara Robbins, though, with the 3rd of their 4th round picks, and I think that was something that was a big move for them. She should have gone way sooner, and the Courage getting her with their 3rd pick, still great. Again, her knee has given her trouble in the past. She wears that big brace on it, but she's still an amazing player, and I think that's the type of player who can come in and play in the type of role that Sam Ewis did, where she's going to do the dirty work, and she has the ability to distribute and go forward. So I think she can do a little bit of everything. I love that pick. And the other shocker for the Courage was to trade Diana Ordonez away after the year that she had last year. She made a request that she wanted to be closer to her family, and the Courage accepted that request, but gave up way too much in the process. They gave up quite a few picks, and they did get 1 pick back and used that on Haley Hopkins, another Virginia player, just like Ordonez was, another forward attacking player. Hopkins is a big target who can do quite a bit, and coming out of the ACC, you know what she's going to be able to bring in terms of the competitiveness, and being in that tough of a conference, it just makes you better prepared for a league like the NWSL. So Haley Hopkins going there to replace Ordonez, and then Robbins, 2 of the 4 picks I thought were pretty solid for the Courage. Kansas City also took Alexa Spanstra, who was also a projected first round pick out of Virginia. Had an incredible year. Virginia, also continues to churn out pros. They're a really great program. Everyone knows that. And Alexa Spanstra in attack is going to be able to give them a little bit more in attack to go with a player like a Sam Ewis and other players who are in that strong midfield, Lola Bonta, to give support. So it's exciting to see what direction or how Kansas City is going to look next year, having reloaded and making the final last year. Expectations are going to be very, very high. Penelope Hocking going to the Chicago Red Stars. That was a big deal. You're wondering what direction Chicago was going to go in because their entire midfield is gone. Mo Bryan, Danielle Colaprico, Vanessa DiBernardo, all gone. How is that going to impact? But they went attack. They clearly said, we have Mallory Pugh and we need to. Kaylee Ohai is still on the mend after having her baby. So Kaylee Watt now, excuse me, I keep going to Kaylee Ohai. That's my mistake. Kaylee Watt is now, on her way to coming back. So you have Penelope Hocking, and then they took her college teammate, Allison Schlegel, in the later rounds. So you have Hocking and Schlegel to go alongside Mallory Pugh. The Chicago attack is going to be fun to watch moving forward. That is for sure. As we go through the rest of some of these later picks, right? Ordonez naturally got traded. Abby Erceg was furious about that trade, mind you. She said, I don't know if you guys all saw the tweet where she said, yup, it's official. We still suck at trades in 2023. She was not happy with that Ordonez deal, which I thought was very, very funny for her to tweet out. A lot of players don't openly do that. We know how outspoken and passionate Abby Erceg is about the game, so she was not going to hold back there. I thought that was very, very funny. There was two other players, marquee names, that went later on. Jalissa Harris and Messia Bright. Harris was a first-round pick, but somehow fell to the bottom of the second round. It was a steal for Houston to use their first pick of the draft and get her when they did. They waited and waited, and they got, they traded away most of their first-round picks and were able to get Harris when they've always needed defensive help. So that's a potential starter right there off the bat. And then Orlando has a striker in Messia Bright. She can create chances, scoring 49 career goals at TCU. She's the real deal, y'all. And they need a replacement for Alex Morgan. It's been tough. Last year was tough. We saw what Orlando could do defensively, their ability to stifle teams, but we knew that they also needed to boost their attack, and Messia Bright's going to be able to do that, being a prolific scorer at the college level. We talked about Emily Madrill already, but then you add Tori Hansen as well from North Carolina in round 3, one of the best defenders in the nation. They're quietly building something and flying under the radar. I really believe this team is going to surprise everyone next year, and they're going to be a fun team to watch. Even adding Summer Yates, round 4 out of Washington. Again, another player with a first-round grade who could have been taken in the first round and fell to round 4. So that's another great value pick for Orlando. 6 keepers taken with only 48 picks in the draft. That was a lot. But there's always teams looking to add depth with some aging stars at the position. And then another cool fun fact, 2 different sisters were taken. So Ileana Hocking is the twin of Penelope Hocking. So you have 2 sisters going in the same draft. That must have been a special moment for both, for the Hocking family to see them both eventually get drafted. And then Natalie Vigiano out of Wisconsin. Her older sister is Marissa, playing for Orlando, and so naturally we see Natalie enter the league now. So we got a little bit of sibling rivalry here. Hopefully everyone makes their respective teams and gets the opportunity to play against each other. That would be a really, really cool storyline down the line. And so the OL Reign took Natalie, and we'll see if Orlando and Seattle, or the OL Reign, get some opportunities to square off against each other. Overall, it was an amazing draft, and again, keep your eyes peeled for any other content coming from the draft. Thank y'all. Next up, we have the U.S. Women's National Team taking on New Zealand in multiple friendlies to get ready for the She Believes Cup, which is to get ready for the World Cup coming up this summer. So it was the first time this team was back together for quite some time, and naturally, playing against a team like New Zealand, you knew what was going to happen. New Zealand's only beaten the United States, I think, once all time, and so it's always tough sledding. It was just Ali Riley out there, really, for New Zealand. The first game, the United States had 75% possession, but it was still pretty shocking that the match was 0-0 at halftime in that first match. They really were not clinical enough in taking some of the chances they had. Alex Morgan had a header she missed. Lindsay Horan had a shot in front of goal that she normally, missed from close range. It was a great save from Erin Naylor, but still, Lindsay Horan, a player of that quality, you expect her to slot that home. There was some great play in that first half. They just weren't able to break through, but Trinity Rodman was the story for me Naturally, Mallory Pugh has been amazing. She is back with a vengeance, and it's super cool to see her career take off in the right direction, trending upward now after all the injuries. And you could go back to our episodes and we talked about if Mallory Pugh can get healthy, she's being forgotten about, and now she's back. We said it first, all right. I'm gonna let y'all know now. We've been on the Mal Pugh train, even though she's now Mallory Swanson now, because seeing her and Dansby Swanson kind of have their careers take off since coming together has been really cool to see. They're clearly good for each other. I don't know too much. I don't want to speculate too much. That's their business, but clearly the relationship is working for the both of them. They're both doing great things right now. Trinity Rodman, like I said, 3 assists in the 2 games overall. The 2 in the first game were special. I mean, showing off both feet. I mean, no one knew that she had this in her locker. And clearly the work is paying off. The work that she's putting in is of the highest level. So it's super exciting to see her against a team that she should play well against. Really look this good, blowing by markers, putting in incredible crosses. This is looking like a potential role that she's carving out for herself within the U.S. national team. And then, Rose Lavelle is Rose Lavelle. The backheel assist to set up Alex Morgan, the finish, just something special. Waiting. Aaron Naylor comes out, cuts off the angle, and Morgan just times it to perfection and essentially nutmegs Naylor, goes through the legs and finds the side netting. I mean, that is just timing, focus, preparation, all coming together in that moment, along with the ability to finish. And it's about executing in that moment, and that's exactly what Alex Morgan is one of the best in the world at doing. So, 4-0 after the first game. Mal Swanson with 2 goals. Lynn Williams was able to come back in and get one again, courtesy of Trinity Rodman putting in a great ball. So again, they pretty much dominated. There was nothing that New Zealand had to offer, 75%, and we kind of said that that's how it would go going into the second match, and it was more of the same. New Zealand did much better. They were able to actually possess a little bit more, bring the ball into the United States half a little bit more. Still, Alyssa Nair was never really challenged at any point during the match, and so the United States still were able to really have their way. 5-0, and it wasn't even really close from any angle, any perspective. Again, Trinity Rodman looked great. Ashley Hatch had to come in because, again, Alex Morgan had a tweak, a lower leg tightness, I believe, in warm-ups, and so naturally you take every precaution necessary. Hatch scored a nice goal to come in on short notice like that and score was a big deal again on the assist from Trinity Rodman. A great ball sprinting down the field, the left flank, and she's got to play in a ball with her left foot. The number of players that fluff that and don't get it right is staggering. There's so many players that it's a hard thing to do, and again, Trinity made it look easy playing it in with her left foot right into the path of Hatch. And there was so many great moments overall from the match and how things played out. You saw just how strong the United States national team was in attack. Again, as expected against New Zealand. And we will talk about the She Believes Cup coming up once rosters come out for that. And we will break down. Again, it's kind of like the last major competition, last bit of real opportunity to see just how good this United States team can be in these situations. Again, Naomi Girma has been amazing. There's so many great things about this team right now. I think the only thing that is worrisome is this number 6 spot. Who is going to play it, and who's going to play it well? To me, again, we've talked about Andy Sullivan many times, and we need her to play to the level of a Julie Ertz or a Sam Ewis, and it doesn't quite feel like that's happening at this present moment. And so there's still time to see how she fits in, who is going to play in that number 6 spot, because that's really the one area with Ewis and Ertz both not in the team. Who is going to do that? Who's going to do the defensive dirty work? And that's really been the one thing that's missing from this team. Otherwise, they're complete. They're complete in all areas. They're just a little inexperienced. So how do you see this going forward? is going to be interesting to keep an eye going into next month's She Believes Cup. And again, we will have a preview for you. But for right now, things are great. They did what they were supposed to do, and they handled business as they should. 9-0 over our combined 2 games against New Zealand. That's exactly what you would expect. Before we get into our last topic of the day, we definitely wanted to give a shout out to one of our other sponsors, Parkside Trading Cards. If you aren't into trading cards, I'm telling y'all right now, as an avid card collector, you need to get into that space right away, because women's soccer is growing and the card market has been as better than it's ever been. And so ripping cards, one, is not only fun, you get to collect all your cards, but you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to hit. So Parkside has really upgraded year after year and doing a better job of improving their product. And so before it was just the regular trading cards with unique inserts and autographs, but this year they added a Paramount set, which again is slightly pricier but still more than affordable, right? 3 packs of about 10 cards, and they're really high quality cards, guys. Okay, we did a rip for Parkside at the convention and pulled an Alex Morgan NWSL 10 coin card built in to the card. Okay, and you check eBay, that's already selling right now for about $60 to $100. So if you were to have that card in that box, you already made your money back, right? For ripping that card. Again, it's, if you are going to rip cards, it's about volume, right? You have to make sure that you consistently rip and you consistently go after it. That's why Parkside is great for consistently buying their product, to hunting for some of the autographs or some of the amazing cards that you might look for. Again, if you are interested in ripping some cards and you would like to know more about what Parkside does, again, go to their website, Parkside Trading Cards, and again, search for that, right? It'll come up almost immediately. We have a code with them, GSN10, for 10% off. Again, GSN10 for 10% off. You definitely do not want to miss out on that deal. Again, cards galore. You never know what you're going to get. A Jaden Shaw, if you hit a Jaden Shaw autograph or rookie card, you just hit the lotto, my friends. Okay, that card is going to be, it's worth a lot right now and could be worth a lot more, assuming her career pans out and she becomes the superstar that we're thinking that she's going to become. So it's going to be fun to keep an eye on that. And again, parksidecards.com, go check it out. We definitely wanted to get to some news in England. There is the Liberty A-League going on right now as well in Australia. The other European leagues are in full force as well, Italy, Spain, France. But what's happening in the FAWSL was something that we thought was really cool. We're seeing a lot of star players from the English national team spread out. Not just English players, but stars in general spreading out to kind of even out the league a little bit, because it has been quite top-heavy between Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester City, and now Manchester United is slowly creeping into that top tier as well, but it's mostly been those 3 teams for as long as it has. So Jordan Nobbs, a big-time player at Arsenal, leaves to go to Aston Villa. Lucy Staniforth, again, big-time player from Man United, goes to Aston Villa. So they're upgrading. You add Rachel Daly, all of a sudden they have a little bit more of a formidable team. Tottenham as well making moves. Mana Iwabuchi they bring in from Aston Villa. And then you have Bethany England as well coming over from Chelsea to Tottenham. One of the best strikers in the league going to Tottenham. So all of a sudden now you have some star players that you recognize on some of the teams that you would not have expected them to be on. And that just adds to the parity of the league, and hopefully things, even out a little bit more. And you have, lastly, Estelle Cascarino. That was a huge move to get Cascarino in for Manchester United from PSG. When a big star player like that leaves a French side that has been there for so long and enters the fray with Manchester United, it's a big deal. So all those moves are big ones, and be sure to, again, keep an eye on how the FAWSL pans out. I'm obviously rooting for Manchester United to hang in that title race. They are right there, neck and neck, but I think everyone kind of expects Chelsea or Arsenal to find a way to still win the league. But do not count out Manchester United. Ella Toone is continuing to just get better and better and better. She's on another level right now. So again, keep an eye on Manchester United. They're fun to watch. Katie Zalam, Alessia Russo, who I believe had a Puskas nominee from I believe it was the Euros. So a lot of great stuff happening over there. Manchester United. Marcus Skinner is doing an amazing job right now. Alrighty, that is everything that we have for you today on episode 57 of Give and Go. I am your host, Rohtas and again, thank you so much for making the choice to listen to us at Girls Soccer Network. Again, go to www.girlssoccernetwork.com and check out Give and Go wherever you get your podcasts. We've got a lot of great content coming, and again, this was a special one with Margueritte Aozasa, the UCLA head coach. Be sure to go back and listen to that interview if you haven't already. Love y'all. We truly appreciate you guys. Thank you all for listening. Peace out.